So, yeah, do you want to introduce yourself and your business and what you guys do?
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Andrew Sheely of a company called Rockhouse Architecture. We specialise in architectural services and development surveying for clients looking to extend their homes, places of work, and we kind of feel like we like to take them all the way from concept through to shoveling the ground, I say. So we kind of want to hold the hand of the client from the start to the finish, as much or as little as they may want.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. So as I said, I'm going to ask you just a few questions, and we'll go from there just about your experience with Modunite so far, and we'll go from there.
Cool.
So I guess the first one would be when I think you came through and see Modunite on one of our ads. So you're obviously having some, being an architect, knowledge of how CGIs work, either doing them in-house or using overseas. But what would you say was your biggest challenge prior to using Modunite and how you process CGIs or perhaps use CGIs?
So the challenge we had was when we tried to do CGIs in-house, as a small business, we've got myself and 4 staff, it would always take longer than we really wanted to relative to the cost that we'd be charging the client. And so it was always felt like a bit of a lost leader because, you know, we specialize in designing and concept and kind of getting the ideas on paper, but then you've got the technical side of actually having to do renders and or 3D images and so forth in an efficient way, you know, and then you're dealing with the various programs, SketchUp and Twinmotion and all the different things that are available. And unless you then get someone in who's specialized in that, who can turn it around quickly in-house, as a smaller practice, we're then relying on part 1 or part 2 staff or even qualified architects who maybe aren't fully skilled in that. So it takes a disproportionate amount of time relative to the money we could potentially charge to then get those things done. And like most architects, we want those things done because it's lovely to visualize what we're doing to then, one, help make better design decisions, but help the clients to understand what's going on too, so they feel confident about the way they're going to have their project delivered. So the problem we had was time and money, and they weren't correlating because it was taking too long and the money wasn't enough. And if you charge more, then you're not going to get the visual done anyway. So when I saw you guys and your advert, the price point it felt competitive. I didn't really know how professional you guys were at that point. I kind of took a punt on, we'll see how it goes on the first project. And that was efficient and that worked really well. And it meant we could essentially charge a normal fee to the client to have a visual delivered. We'd make a small amount of money, which basically covers our time to go back and forth with the client a little bit. You're getting paid what you want to get paid. And so it's kind of a win-win for everyone. And the rendering and the time it takes to produce the visuals is no longer on our clock. So we're still progressing our projects while you're delivering the service. And as long as we all stick to our deadlines, as you do, then, you know, it's a nice service that we can then get the visuals, a quick comment back and forth with you, and then it goes off to the client. You know, we're not at a loss. And if anything, we can then decide whether we want to do it at cost with you guys just to get the visual for the client, which is an appealing thing sometimes, or if we want to make a bit of money on it as well. It just depends on the size of the job. But it became very easy to all of a sudden promote visuals for projects. And we find as a result, a lot more clients are taking us up on it, which means we're getting more content for our social, for our business, for our projects to understand what it's going to look like. And so the wheel turns.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like you were able to sometimes use it as a cost leader, like you say, or by using Modunite and still providing the right quality CGIs, actually still makes some money by offering CGIs to your clients.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder there'll come a point where we can put more money on it respectfully as a business, because it is a business at the end of the day. But at the moment, we're just putting enough on just to cover the time what we will take to deal with the client after. And then obviously to cover your cost, and that's it. But then we get the potential of the content. People want examples of work, etc., etc. We've got here it is. And obviously as a business, we then start profiling a lot better online, and what we're showing this work off. So it feels like a good win-win.
Yeah. And after you found Modunite and started using it, did you feel like it kind of got rid of that challenge you had before? So you did find that you had a lot more time. You found that you did have potentially more earning potential there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? The concept of having more time, because when we have more time, you fill your time up with doing something else. But I tell you what, it did make me feel. It felt like the time I then was using whilst not doing 3D visuals and so forth, especially as a business owner, you know, me sitting on a a course saying, oh, I'll learn some 3D software, I'm thinking, well, surely my time should be better spent bringing leads in and winning work as opposed to sitting in front trying to do renders. I made that decision quick because I realized the time is much better spent me bringing stuff through the door, follow up phone calls with leads and so forth, rather than pouring hours over why I can't get a 3D roof to work over a complicated book build. And then it's just, I just perceive my day rate and I go, well, this cannot be efficient considering I can get someone to do it cheaper than my perceived day rate personally. It just becomes an economic decision. And the quality is great, which makes it even easier because then the decision's reinforced,
Yeah, makes sense. Bit of kind of a no-brainer in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and what's important for us is the fact that one of the challenges I wondered would be a challenge was if, whilst working with you guys, that we wouldn't be able to have the flexibility to get some tweaks done. Maybe it would start costing us money if the client says, I want to change this color to this color or change a material, just nominal little changes here and there. And you guys generally accommodate all that, assuming it isn't a major deviation from what the original scheme was, because that's always going to happen. The whole point of a visual is you show a client, they go, oh, I like that, but can I add another mirror? Or can we change the color of the rug? Or I don't like that color wood. I'd like to go for something darker or lighter. The point is we then get to work with you as if we were making the changes in-house. So then we can be reactive to our clients. And once again, it reinforces the service because then it's an extension of my business towards the client, which then makes us look good and it saves me time having to mess around.
So kind of like an extension of what would be an in-house team, although it being outsourced.
Without employing a CGI specialist in-house and going through the rigmarole of all of that, I just give it to you. And then all of a sudden, if we end up with lots of jobs where we need this, I'm not overloading a single person and getting stressed out about that. I can just give it to you. And I know you've got capacity as your team. We manage deadlines and then I just work towards the deadline with you, so thank you very much.
Sounds great. And it's always difficult in terms of putting specific results in terms of number values, but if you had to say what specific results you can share from using Modunite come to mind, whether that be personally, professional, with the business, what would you say would be the highlights?
Okay, it's a great question. So from a monetary perspective, as I said, we're not really using it to be the thing that puts our kids through university. It's more about creating opportunities in terms of having content, one, to work better on our projects with clients, but two, to then show off work we've done to the wider field and when we're doing new projects. So I think in terms of results, I would say that when we've had other projects come through where clients have said, oh, can you show us an example of what you've done or so on and so forth. I mean, there's not been one client who hasn't been blown away by our VR internal tour where you can click and move around and then just pan around the internal space somewhat, or where a client's asked, oh, can you show me some varied projects? And rather than me cringing at myself thinking I've only got 2D drawings to show them and that doesn't really articulate the quality of what this project was, I can go, yeah, and I just quickly go 1 2 3 4 5, here's the last 5 we did, and that's done quickly, which then shows experience and credential. It shows some authority with the client, and then you're making yourself look better to win the next project. So it's kind of reinforced itself in all those ways.
And would you say that, I know you've touched on it before about the day rate versus getting us to do it. Would you say that outsourcing it to Modunite has helped you in that way, free up your time to do things on what I would call high revenue tasks that a business owner should be doing?
That was the reason for the decision to be made to move in this direction with Modunite, and it could have been anyone, with respect, because there's plenty of rendering companies out there. But what I love about Modunite's process after I kind of made the economic decision to spare my time to move jobs on is the fact that when I worked with you guys, rather than being I don't know, an outsourced company I could never get hold of, and with respect, I couldn't speak the language because people do outsource to different countries and so forth. I can get you on the phone, I can talk, you're responsive. I said to one of your guys in the office, Will, the other day, I said, we must be only small ticket for you guys. You must have some big companies doing major things. But every time I speak to you, you make me feel like I'm your best client, which is a nice feeling to have, even though it's a job here, it's a job there. And Will said, listen, we love working with you, and said all the right things. And I was like, brilliant. And it just reinforces it's a pleasure to work with you when you're working with people like that. you know, you just want to go back for the next. If it's serving you in every other way, why wouldn't I come back to you guys?
And it's a pleasure to work with you, Andrew. And yeah, finally, not going to go on forever, but what would you say to someone who's perhaps is in a similar position to you, thinking of similar things before you use Modunite, that's on the fence about using Modunite to process their visuals, because it is your stuff, your work on the line of your clients? What would you say to them?
I'd say that the output from Modunite is of a great quality, so that you're able to actually, like, it is what you would do yourself. And if ever there is a view or some tweak that needs happening, they're responsive and they adjust what they're doing to suit what you would like to see before you present to the client, which is important because it means you can deliver stuff that will be on par with your personal standard, my personal standard. You guys take direction like that, which is fantastic. That's the first thing. The second thing would be that economically, we were in a position where we wanted to do more visuals, but it was a struggle to justify doing that because the amount of time it would take to do that in-house. But we all know the more visuals you do, you can present your company so much better if you can show off in a 3D nature with technology that we've got these days what you're doing. So to discover Modunite as an accessible service that's affordable, and that enables me to win this kind of work with a small margin on just to cover my own time, means that I'm not losing money to produce 3D visuals now. It's washing its face, or I'm making a small margin on top, which, you know, just depends on how many revisions we go through. So economically, it just becomes a no-brainer there, because if I haven't got to employ someone to do that, which is an overhead, and if I am now able to promote affordable visuals to my clients, and they're more and more taking them up because they realize it's affordable. So I'm getting your average punter, architectural punter, saying, let's do it, like a client. Oh, I'm doing a rear extension, where they would never do a visual because they always think it was so expensive. Then they're going, yeah, I'll do a visual because it's only about that much money. We really want to see it. It seems like an affordable way of doing that. So they get the benefit. We get the benefit of the visual for our marketing. The jobs look better. And after that, as I said before, it just snowballs. There's so many positives. And while it's washing its face and covering its costs, then great. Why wouldn't you jump on it and do other things that can generate more money for the business?
Yeah, sounds good. Anything else you'd like to add that we haven't gone through that you think is worthwhile people to understand or know, or what would want to know?
No, I feel like no, I think the most important thing for me, and the reason why I stay with you guys, but there are loads of visualizer companies out there, is because I like the fact that when I require or need a change of perspective, or I need, like you've done an initial image in a certain view, and I might say, well, look, that doesn't really highlight what we want to highlight. Can you change it? La la la. You're not arguing with me about it. You're not arguing the toss over every little penny. You're just helping and cracking on to get the finished thing correct. When there's money to be spent, that's fair, but you're not trying to squeeze every penny out of the job. If you know you need to make changes or to make the client be happy, me being the client, then you do it. And that breeds kind of a nice thing in my mind, because then when there is an actual ask to be done where I appreciate it's outside the brief, I feel more compelled to pay you your money to do that as well. And so it just works well. There's that good flow, you know. I feel like we're working with a team member as opposed to working with an outsourced company, which is a soundbite if you ever want to save one.
Yeah, well, we like to say that we want to be an extension of your in-house team, and that's basically how we try and position ourselves, and hence why we have that kind of service where you can be very pliable with us within remits, obviously.
Yeah.
We're not going to do everything for free, but we have a certain amount of leeway we have in a project, and we're here to basically serve you, really, not the other way around. So that's how.
Which is our own ethos. You know, we want to serve the clients, and you do that by providing good service, and you know, you guys are ticking that box.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, that comes to the end of my questions, Andrew. So I really appreciate you taking the time for this. I know you're a busy man, busy practice. Yeah, if there's nothing else, that's all good.
That is all she wrote. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm grateful to be working with you, and thanks for taking the time to run through those questions as well.